Hello and welcome to my India Proud episode of the Lock, Stock and Barrel podcast, where we'll unravel the intricate connections between sustainability, intellectual property, and cultural narratives that shape our world. I'm Chani Srivastav, and today we're diving into a topic that's very close to my heart: the importance of cultural impact in fashion and in business. Let's get into it. This episode honestly has been brewing for a while, but it all got expedited with a LinkedIn post I recently shared. I shared a reflection on Sabyasachi Mukherjee's incredible 25-year journey in the fashion industry in India and globally, and the response was, well, let's just say my LinkedIn blew up. The comments and discussions it sparked really highlighted how deeply his work resonates with a global audience, and it got me thinking that this needs to be an LTB podcast immediately. Now, for me, this isn't just about an abstract concept. For me, growing up in Udaipur, a city practically breathing art, history, and culture, and also coming from a family immersed in literature and the arts, the power of craftsmanship and cultural legacy is something that I've felt in my bones since I was a kid. It's part of my DNA. And now, as a sustainability strategist specializing in IP and tech law, working so closely with clients in the sustainable fashion space, I see firsthand how these threads intertwine with each other. Sabyasachi Mukherjee's work, especially, beautifully exemplifies this particular intersection. He doesn't just create clothes, he weaves stories. He resurrects lost crafts and reignites a sense of cultural pride, even in those who don't care about fashion. He's built a global brand by celebrating Indian heritage and not by diluting it. What struck me most about the conversations following my LinkedIn post was how many people were interested in knowing about cultural impact and how that was connected to business strategy. For the uninitiated, Sabyasachi Mukherjee is an Indian designer who isn't just about aesthetics. He's one of the designers who's all about authenticity, connection, and creating something meaningful that resonates with him as an individual on a deeper level. To me, feels like a natural extension of his cultural legacy, with a heavy imprint from both his grandmothers. His work is interestingly a profound celebration of both their aesthetics. His minimalistic as well as maximalistic artistic roots interestingly emerge from the aesthetics of his grandmothers. And that's where the real sustainable success lies. So, this episode is a direct result of those conversations. We are going to deep dive into what cultural impact actually means beyond the buzzword that we all know it has become. We'll unpack why it's so incredibly valuable, especially in today's world, and crucially, how businesses, particularly in the fashion industry, but really across any sector, can genuinely integrate it into their own strategies. We'll explore how cultural narratives, like the ones Sabyasachi Mukherjee masterfully tells, aren't just preserved, they're reimagined, reinterpreted, and become powerful engines for innovation and growth unto themselves. And of course, it's about more than just selling clothes, it's about building a legacy. And that's something any business can learn from. Let's start with the essence of cultural impact and let's understand what culture really means. As opposed to popular belief, culture is way more than just aesthetics, created mostly for an Instagram moment these days. Culture is, in its true sense, the soul of a community. The traditions, the crafts, and the values passed down through generations determine what the culture of that time is. It shapes identities, sparks emotions, and fosters connections on a deeper level. And of course, the cultural zeitgeist of our globalized times, where ideas, media, and cultural products are rapidly exchanged across borders through the internet, depicts a unified global culture, the snippets of which are seen across the board by all of us. It is also evident in fashion, where ideas and styles seamlessly blend across borders, creating a unified yet diverse aesthetic. For example, luxury brands like Louis Vuitton or Gucci are seen incorporating Japanese streetwear elements and even Indian embroidery into their designs. Similarly, collaborations such as the one led by Christian Dior with African artists and Nike with Korean streetwear labels highlight cross cultural influences. While acknowledging the global influence, it is even more important to understand what the individual parts are made up of in this large global mix and how they are equally, if not more, valuable. Today, our discussion is focused on examples emerging from India, so we'll talk about the global culture in a later episode. I can now look back affirmatively and say what cultural impact really was for me. It was in the smell of old books lining our study at home, the rhythm of my Bharatnatyam guru's mridangam, the sight of my grandmother draping her pure handloom and silk saris with effortless grace on a daily basis, and the fragrance of fresh local flowers and oils that made me feel like I was still living in the era of almond eyes and lotus feet. Well, I mean, if you know, you know. So basically, the cultural impact for me as an individual was in the effortless osmosis through which I gained my identity. I didn't know for the longest time that all festivals were not celebrated in all households. For me, growing up in a multicultural household, I felt the presence of every festival in our home. There was Rangoli, Gujiyas, Diyas on Diwali, weeks of preparation of our Christmas cakes leading up to Christmas, and the feast of biryani and sevai on Eid. This was not restricted only to major festivals. When I was growing up, I was surrounded by at least three generations around me who've had such a deep sense of community and belonging that every little local ritual held immense value in our household and still does to this day. The point is that these moments weren't just personal experiences for me. They were all the threads of a larger cultural fabric that shaped my identity and made me who I am today. From my professional perspective as well, this whole conversation about cultural impact really hits home as it's a fundamental part of a successful business strategy, especially in the sustainable fashion world where I work in extensively. We're talking about how businesses, particularly in this space, can leverage cultural heritage, those incredible stories, techniques, and traditions that everyone is grown up with, to build brands that are not only authentic and sustainable, but also legally protected. This last part is really crucial. We need to ensure that these traditional crafts, designs, and the intellectual property surrounding them don't just survive, but actually thrive in our modern economy. It's about empowering artisans, preserving heritage, and building a sustainable future for these dying crafts. Later in the episode, I'll elaborate more on this point where I talk about GI tag. For now, this brings us back to someone like Sabyasachi Mukherjee. I mean, his work is just breathtaking, of course, but it's not just about the exquisite craftsmanship that he brings, though that's certainly a huge part of it. It's more about his passion for storytelling, for weaving narratives of identity and history into his designs. He's not just creating beautiful clothes, he's positioning Indian heritage on a global stage, making it relevant as well as aspirational. Think about his flagship stores if you've been to one, whether it's in Kolkata, New Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, or even New York. They're not just shops, they're immersive experiences that unapologetically embrace his India centric approach to storytelling, exhibiting tasteful and somehow minimalistic maximalism. Each store is like a museum, carefully designed with its personal collection of rugs, paintings, artifacts, and depicts a celebration of heritage textiles, artistry, and more importantly, that undeniable sense of cultural pride. As a connoisseur of art, pure fabrics, and craftsmanship myself, I'm absolutely thrilled by what he's doing. It's so inspiring to see someone so dedicated to preserving and elevating these traditions, most of which are now dying crafts. And his strategy? He's never shy in admitting that this is all about world domination. It's not just about commercial success, it's about making Indian craftsmanship globally aspirational. It's about changing perceptions. That holds good for any designer or any country today, if you have the gumshoe like Sabyasachi. It's about challenging the status quo and creating a new narrative around luxury and sustainability in this segment. That to me is incredibly powerful, even from a business standpoint. It's what sparked this whole episode, actually. Seeing how cultural impact can be such a driving force, not just for creativity, but for business success and sustainability. It's a lesson we can all learn from. Having had a knack of artistic value behind the scenes, I've come to appreciate that culture isn't just an aesthetic choice, it's a strategic pillar. As I've seen it, perhaps because I was raised by very fashion forward women, I've always understood fashion as a reflection of identity, heritage, and timelessness at its very core. And even now, my perception of fashion goes beyond trends owing to that genetic predisposition. I cherish the fact that fashion shapes the way we express ourselves, but more importantly, on a global level, I respect that fashion holds the power to influence economies, preserve craftsmanship, and redefine how businesses engage with global communities. The commercial relevance of cultural impact is undeniable. A 2022 McKinsey report that talks about the rise of an inclusive consumer states that consumers are increasingly seeking brands that resonate with their values, particularly when it comes to cultural authenticity and sustainability. And this shift isn't just about ethical consumption, it's about deeper emotional connections. Of course, this report talks about the Hispanic community, but the resonance can be felt for other communities as well. A brand that embodies cultural storytelling and craftsmanship isn't just selling a product, it's selling meaning, heritage, and most importantly, a sense of belonging to a larger audience. In a global marketplace where differentiation is critical, this is a business advantage that cannot be ignored. For brands, the challenge is clear. How do you integrate culture into your business model in a way that is authentic, ethical, as well as economically viable? As a strategist, I can tell you that the answer lies in simply rethinking sustainability and its tenets for you. Think about sustainability not just as an environmental obligation, but as a cultural and economic opportunity. Let me elaborate this point with two prime examples that are again very India proud. Take Good Earth, for example, founded by Anita Lal in 1996. If you've been to a Good Earth store anywhere, you will know that it is more than just a luxury lifestyle brand. Good Earth as a brand stands as a custodian of Indian artistic heritage. Its hand block print textiles, traditional pottery, and intricate designs inspired by Mughal and Rajput traditions are not just beautiful. They carry centuries of history, ensuring that artisanal knowledge is passed down carefully rather than lost to mass production. This is sustainability in its truest sense, sustaining both environmental and cultural ecosystems. Another befitting example is that of Fabindia, founded by John and Bim Bissell in 1960, a brand that started as just a furniture company, has over the years redefined ethical consumerism in India by expanding its verticals and embedding cultural preservation into the very core of its business model. By working directly with artisans, Fabindia not only safeguards traditional handloom techniques, but also creates sustainable employment for rural communities. This decentralized, artisan led supply chain that is followed both by Good Earth and Fabindia is a blueprint for entrepreneurs of how brands can be both commercially successful and socially impactful. Now that I'm heavily involved with strategizing to make purpose meet profits for a business, I can tell you that the reality is businesses, especially in the fashion, lifestyle, and beauty segment, fail to see the value in cultural sustainability. With this thought process, they are not just missing out on ethical obligation, they're missing out on a crucial financial opportunity. The future of fashion is not just about reducing carbon footprints or eliminating waste. It's also about recognizing the economic potential in cultural narratives. Holistic sustainability in fashion ultimately is about investing in artisans, their dyeing processes, ensuring fair wages, and positioning heritage as an asset rather than an afterthought. I'd urge you to look around and understand that in an era where consumers are demanding more transparency, more meaning, and more connection, cultural sustainability is no longer an option. It's essential. And for entrepreneurs working in this segment, embracing it is not just the right thing to do, but it's the smart and profitable thing to do. Let's talk about geographical indications or GI tags in this vein. A GI tag is a certification granted to products with a unique geographical origin, ensuring their authenticity and protecting the livelihoods of artisans who create them. Without going into legal nuances, for those unfamiliar, I'll let you imagine it like this. Think of a GI tag as a badge of honor, a certification that a product is uniquely tied to a specific place. It's like saying this particular pashmina shawl is authentically from Kashmir, woven by artisans who've been doing this for generations, carrying this craft carefully to weave an entire story into the fabric itself. It's so much more than just a label. As an IP lawyer, I've been particularly fascinated with GI tags given my propensity towards arts and culture, as they're a powerful tool for building a sustainable future, especially in the cultural context. Think about the living histories of Kanchipuram silk and Banarsi brocade. They represent centuries of skill, artistry, and cultural heritage passed down through families. They're tangible links to our past. And when you hold a GI tagged product, you're not just holding an object, you're holding a piece of that carefully passed down history. GI tags are crucial for protecting the livelihoods of the artisans who create these incredible products. And without that protection, their unique skills and traditions are vulnerable to imitation as well as exploitation. The most common examples that you must have seen everywhere is the case of mass production of Kashmiri style shawls, which are done using inferior materials and methods that completely undermine the artisans who pour their heart and soul into creating one pashmina shawl that can take even a year to complete. That's where GI tag comes in. These tags provide legal protection, ensuring that consumers can trust the authenticity and quality of the product they're buying, and that the artisans, in turn, are fairly compensated for their expertise. But here's where it gets really interesting from a business perspective. Integrating GI tag material into a brand strategy isn't just about doing good. It's smart business because consumers, especially the growing segment of conscious consumers, are increasingly drawn to products with a story, a heritage, and a sense of place. They want to know where their clothes come from and who made them. GI tags provide that kind of transparency and that kind of trust that a brand can build on. They offer brands a unique selling proposition and a way to differentiate themselves in a crowded marketplace. Think about the brand Raw Mango, which was founded by Sanjay Garg in 2008. He began by showcasing handloom saris at local markets like Delhi Haat and Dastkar Bazaar, where he was spotted for his craft and vision by Anita Lal of Good Earth to stock at her store. It is interesting how interconnectedness works everywhere. As I always say, if you look hard enough, you will find that the threads that hold each one of us also weave together to make the larger tapestry of the world. So Sanjay absolutely revolutionized the way the global audience and even locals perceived Banarsi textiles. He's taken these traditional fabrics, these living histories, and modernized them, making them relevant to a contemporary global audience while still honoring their authenticity. If you look closely at Raw Mango, you'll see that Sanjay is not just creating beautiful clothes, he's creating a sustainable business model that supports traditional weavers and preserves their craft for good. His approach perfectly demonstrates how heritage and innovation can coexist, how cultural preservation can be a powerful driver for economic growth. It's a win win, really. The artisans thrive, the brand flourishes, and the consumers get to own something truly special while getting the worth for their money. So the next time you see a GI tag, remember it's more than just a label. It represents a commitment to authenticity, a celebration of cultural heritage, and a powerful tool for building a more sustainable and equitable fashion industry in the end. From a business perspective, it's vital ingredient for creating a brand that resonates with today's conscious consumers as well. So, why should businesses care about cultural impact? If you're still asking, I'm going to give you three very low hanging reasons to sum it up: differentiation, consumer loyalty, and sustainability. In an oversaturated market, authenticity is what sets a brand apart. So, when Sabyasachi incorporates traditional Indian embroidery or when Good Earth incorporates motifs from the Mughal era, they aren't just selling products, they're selling legacy and they're selling identity. So, differentiation makes all the difference. Cultural pride fosters deep emotional connections across industries. So, when consumers see their heritage celebrated, they develop an enduring loyalty to the brand. And which brand doesn't respect consumer loyalty? Finally, supporting local artisans and traditional crafts aligns with the growing demand for ethical consumption. From where I stand, it's sustainability in its truest sense, as it preserves both culture and community livelihoods. If you're an entrepreneur who is still struggling to find your why, feel free to head down to the description box below and reach out to me for a conversation. I'll help you decipher your own unique strategies in making a holistic impact with your business. But let's unpack some of the key challenges that are invariably going to crop up when you talk about cultural impact. One of the biggest risks I've seen firsthand is cultural appropriation. It's not enough to just borrow an aesthetic. We're talking about deeply held meanings, traditions, stories that are woven into the fabric of a culture handed down through generations. When a brand lifts elements without understanding or respecting a particular culture, it's not just a misstep, it's a calculated cultural violation. And in today's hyper-connected world, where consumers are super tech savvy, they will invariably call you out. The backlash can be swift and severe, damaging brand credibility beyond repair. It's about more than just looking nice. It's about respecting the origin and the people who created and continue to nurture these traditions. Then there's the challenge of scaling traditional crafts. These techniques are more often incredibly time intensive. Think hand woven, naturally dyed, intricately embroidered pieces of clothing. Mass production, as we currently understand it, just isn't compatible in many cases because it aims at replicating the design and not the craft. But that's where innovation comes in. It's not about abandoning tradition, but about finding new ways to adapt and integrate it into modern production processes. Designers like Sanjay Garg, who I deeply admire, are brilliant examples of this. He's shown how you can maintain the integrity and soul of traditional craftsmanship while still creating pieces that are relevant and accessible in today's market. I urge you to study Raw Mango as a case in business positioning in a global marketplace, as it exhibits the delicate balance that is required for a deep understanding of the craft itself, as well as what the conscious, inclusive consumer wants. And of course, as an IP and tech lawyer, I cannot not talk about the legal side of things. Protecting cultural heritage is of paramount importance in this case. As we discussed earlier, geographical indication tags are a fantastic tool for certain products, but they are not a silver bullet for everyone. Brands, especially those working with artisans and traditional communities, need robust and holistic IP strategies. This means everything from design patents, trademarks, copyrights, to carefully crafted contracts that ensure fair compensation and protect the cultural narratives while entering into mergers or JVs of any kind with other national or international brands. We need to ensure that these stories aren't diluted, misappropriated, or even worse, exploited. Legal protection in this case is all about empowering communities and ensuring they benefit from their own cultural heritage under all circumstances. It's a complex landscape, and I'm passionate about helping businesses navigate it responsibly and ethically. So, in case you would want to have a conversation with me about it, I'd be happy to chat with you. As we wrap up, here's something to reflect on. Cultural impact isn't a trend, as we have seen, it's a responsibility. Whether you're a designer, business owner, or consumer, you play a role in shaping the narrative around culture, sustainability, and innovation, and define what our cultural zeitgeist is. It's not just about slapping a sustainable label on something and calling it a day. It's far deeper than that. It's about understanding the why behind the cultural narrative, the stories, the traditions. So, whether you're a designer sketching a new collection, a business owner strategizing for the next quarter, or even a consumer choosing what to buy, you are a thread in this large tapestry, which is shaping the conversation around culture, sustainability, and innovation. Think about it. When you pick up a handloom sari or admire a piece of handcrafted jewelry, there's a whole world behind it. Generations of artisans, intricate techniques passed down for generations, and communities supported through it. Supporting brands that recognize this, that actively celebrate and preserve these traditions, is more than just a purchase for a consumer. It is ultimately an investment in something which is much bigger than ourselves. Now, if you're in business, this becomes even more critical. Integrating cultural impact into your strategy isn't just about superficial marketing campaigns. It's about embedding it into your DNA, making it a core value that informs every single decision that you make. It's also about asking yourself the tough questions. How can we honor these traditions while also innovating? How can we empower the artisans and communities we work with? How can we create a business model that's both profitable and purpose driven? It is a delicate balance. I know that. I know that from my work in the sustainable fashion segment. That brands who are consciously trying to strike a balance between creativity and business success are not just pandering to the conscious consumer, but are also playing their very, very crucial role in redefining the future of fashion itself. And it's not always easy. There are complexities, nuances, and often conflicting priorities, but it's absolutely essential because ultimately, cultural impact isn't just good for the world, it's good for business as well. Consumers, especially younger generations, like I mentioned, are increasingly demanding authenticity. Governments are moving towards transparency, and a sense of connection to brands gives a sense of comfort to this kind of inclusive, conscious consumer who wants to know the story behind the product and feel like they've become a part of the impact of that brand. This is something I'm deeply passionate about. And that's why I choose to work closely with businesses, hand holding them through their IP and sustainability strategies so they can have a meaningful impact through their work and passion. If you'd like to, I'd be happy to chat with you as well and explore ways in which you can have a positive impact through your passion and your work. For now, thank you for joining me on this episode of the Lock, Stock and Barrel podcast as we went on this introductory journey through the threads of cultural impact, sustainability, and intellectual property. Stay tuned for many episodes on this subject in the coming weeks. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your network and leave a comment in the comment section. You'll find all the links to this podcast in the description box below. I hope to hear from you. So let's keep this vital conversation alive. Until next time, stay curious and stay connected.